So today we're going to talk about being single.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes. I think it would be good if we can start just talking about overall like single Christian culture and really like what that means, how it feels to us, like what that lived experience is. I won't start because I can talk about a lot. So I'm going to pass it to y'all.
Are we talking about like within the church or in general, like with church people? Like,
Both.
what are the vibes?
Both. Whichever one.
I think I was actually having this conversation the other day with my pastor, and I think something that can be disheartening is like, I feel like the rhetoric is, well, if you just focus on God, your husband will come, which I'm not going to say is a lie. But what I do feel is like what it does is it makes it seem as if you're not focusing on God. And that's the reason why you haven't like gotten married. It's like if you were just focusing on God, then you would be married.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not biblical, A. And B, it's not realistic. And a lot of the people I know who are married, I know plenty of people who've been married for 50 years. They didn't even know God when they got married. Like they weren't even Christians. Like it's just not true. And I think it shames people and makes people feel bad for not being where someone else who is not God is telling them that they should be.
Yeah. I think also the single culture, like all of that is pushed to Black women. And I think a lot of it stems from they like to use this rhetoric of there's something wrong and that you're lacking something.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, I live a very full, good life, right? And I'm not depending on nobody's son to like make up whatever deficit that I have because I'm single. And so I think a lot of that is pushed towards Black women because I don't know why society always wants us on a hamster wheel doing something. So if you're not pursuing another degree, then you need to pursue another relationship so that you're constantly doing something.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be on that kind of like time clock. So I think for me, I have to make sure that I'm feeding myself enough to know that just because I don't have a partner doesn't mean I have a deficit in anything.
Yeah. And I think like that's really why even that there's only just women here and talking about singleness, because like that same rhetoric is not pushed to like men.
It's not
in the same way that it's pushed to women, especially like in churches, like that everything you need is in the house. And it's like, girl, it's not.
It's not.
Actually, it's not.
It's not.
There's like a handful of men here.
Yeah.
Not every man wants you or you or you. They might want something that.
And I definitely don't want that drummer. Definitely can't have
Or
that
they
drummer.
might want all of y'all.
Or everybody. There
You know, that too.
Can't do it.
So, no. Go for it.
Girl. I am delivered from that.
Yeah. And also dating outside of the house itself is like, okay. Like, there are relationships that can be built on like God that aren't necessarily formed within a church context. Like, and to your point, there are people who are married for like 50 years that did not know God at first. And it's like, I definitely want a relationship that's God-centered, right? But like,
Of course.
that does not mean that something is not wrong with me. And I feel like, y'all, there's a book on every corner about being single. I don't know. Have y'all read any like books, or do y'all like stray away from that in terms
Like the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read
Relationship goals.
some. Yeah, I've read some.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, I got some good things from some of them.
Okay.
But I mean, it's my life. I have to just do it the way I want to. It's not going to go the way Megan Good. Clearly, we don't want to read Megan Good's book, or the portrayal.
Definitely have it, but I never read it.
I read it.
Okay.
It was good, but again, it's just nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
That's true. So we look at all these relationship books and all these relationship goals, and it's like we don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
That's a fact.
So I can take tips from whoever, but it's just my life. I have to do it the way I want to.
Yeah. And I think even with like idolizing marriage, y'all do not know what goes on in people's homes. Just because somebody's been married for a long time doesn't mean that it's healthy, doesn't mean it's godly, doesn't mean people are faithful. And not to say that marriage has to be perfect to be a success, whatever that looks like. Like, people are human, they're going to make mistakes. But I also just feel like, what are we, like, you run into what? Like, because a lot of people are not, like, it's not necessarily all it's cracked up to be. And you'll see people, I feel like I've been fortunate enough to, like, people just tell me their business sometimes. And I just, like, you know, and it's like, you'll really think, like, oh, this looks like perfect on Instagram. And you actually talk to them and you're like, what is happening in your house? Yeah, like, this is tough. Like, I mean, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, but it don't look like that. Like, that's tough.
Yeah.
So I think, like,
or I don't want it to look.
Yeah. So I think that, and once again, not to say that people don't go through cycles or that things can't be restored, or, you know, I'm not saying that at all. I just feel like it's important to have what God wants you to have when he wants you to have it. And we lack no good thing. And I remember when I first was, like, reading that scripture, I used to think, like, the good thing was, like, an actual tangible thing. But really, like, Jesus is our good thing.
Yeah.
Like, Naomi Rain has this line in one of her songs that, like, Jesus is my happily ever after. And so it's like, in him, you're not lacking anything. And so I think that's an important perspective to keep as well. Yeah. So you might not have everything you want, but you're not lacking.
Like, I'm
Okay. Oh, tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Because I'm very comfortable with all of that. But I'd be like, I mean, Jesus, yeah, Jesus holds me, but Jesus don't be holding me. You know, like, true. You know, Jesus ain't taking me out on dates. Like,
I too want oysters.
I too want to go to Cheesecake Factory.
I too want to debate the list.
You can take me to places on that list. I was like,
yeah.
So it's like, I think I try to get comfortable in that, but I'm human. Like,
do you feel like you have good relationships with, like, good friendships? Like, how do you feel your community looks?
I have an amazing community, and I'm an amazing community. So
that was so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do. I do. I don't know. What's that little meme that said, God, like, we're the tracking number at something. Like, I'm okay with waiting.
Yeah.
I know when he comes, because I don't want to deal with some of the stuff that's out there. But I'm like, Lord, UPS, FedEx, USPS.
And I think that's so okay. Like, I am so up and down personally about my singleness. Like, to be honest, and for all my friends that's going to watch this, I've been to a lot of weddings. I've been to a lot of things.
My Lord, today.
And I just saw a TikTok, like, earlier that was about, like, just being a single person in an environment, like, so much about relationships and like how as single people we don't get, like, people don't actually check in.
Right.
Like, imagine what this makes me feel like in this situation. And it's like all the joy, all the things, all the happiness, but also still, like, my life is also happening to me in a separate way. And I think I am so much up and down with God about that too. Like, me and God, we tussle on that. Like, I thought marriage was happening a long time ago. And I also have been in situations where I've held on to men that I did not need because I thought that was the, like, life that I wanted for myself. Like, you think that this is your person.
Yeah.
Girl.
White picket fence. Like, me and my therapist talk about this all the time. Like, that is my white picket fence. And in reality, like, you don't even have a white picket fence, baby. You don't need a fence because you're in a lot by yourself.
Yeah.
Alone. And, like, that's the good place to be. But it doesn't happen like that always. Each to your point, like, sometimes I'm very like, all right, God, like, some things I've said to myself this year is like, I'm willing to wait if I never have to wait again. Like, I'm willing to literally sit there and wait on the right person if that means that I'm not going to have to wait again. Because foundationally, there are so many relationships out there. Like, and in reality, like, we don't know. And I think everybody has said this. Like, you don't really know what happens in people's homes. You don't know what happens in people's relationships. And it's like, I am willing to wait to make sure that my foundation is stable. That does not make it hurt any
less. Exactly.
It does not make it harder, or it does not make it easier to attend a wedding or anything, because even in those moments, like, there's so much joy. Like, y'all, I'm auntie of the century. Like, I love the people down.
Right.
I will be in my ball game with a great gift. But still in reality, when I go home at night, there's still a sense of, it's me and my puppy. And I love my dog.
At least you got a puppy.
You don't get a dog, girl. They
Lord help us.
I got a teddy bear. I got a teddy bear.
That works too, though.
He be chill.
Or your FaceTime. Like, just in a sense, like, just having a connection. And it's like in those quiet moments that really are raw. Because it's like, yes, I can be joyous. I love my community. I built a community. I also think that God lends to single people good communities. I think that is a gift in the sense that we all know that being single is hard, and it would be 10 times harder to feel like you have no one. Exactly. So I have seen God literally make ways, even with y'all girls right here. Like, God has did that to make sure that I'm not in this like walk alone, but it does not make it any less hard.
But I think what I love about God is that God never leaves you alone. And I think that has been my testimony. So yeah, I don't have a partner right now, but even in all of that, like, I can go to God and say, this is some foolishness. Like, I want a partner yesterday. Like, you can tell God all of those things. And I think being honest about that is like half of the battle. And I think also I'm trying to rework like the language that I use, because I get that we always say like, oh, I'm waiting and I'm waiting for this. Technically, I don't want to be in a waiting room forever. But if you keep saying that you're waiting, then guess where you are? You're waiting. But I'm not waiting to do anything. If I want to go somewhere, I'm going to take myself on a date until Mr. Man come, right? But I feel like you don't have to use the rhetoric of I'm waiting, because that makes it sound painful. Like, it makes it seem like, oh, I just have to sit idle. And God has not called you to live that kind of life. In fact, I don't think in the Bible it doesn't say anything about a waiting room or anything about waiting, right? And even if it was, I don't want to use that language, right? Because it just does not work for me. And so I want to be sure to say like, hey, I am, of course, living until a partner comes along, but waiting, I'm not waiting to live. I'm not waiting to walk in my purpose. I'm not waiting to walk in my calling. I just don't have a partner yet. That's it.
What do y'all think about, like, I think also to that point, and people talking about like navigating your waiting season or like the season where you don't have a partner, and how a lot of people also like give like advice in the sense that Isha's rolling her eyes. So, but like there's always like a sense of like, somebody always says when I'm talking about being single, people are like, well, have you tried X, Y, and Z?
Please stop that. Please,
especially when it comes from the no shade. From the
married people.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
Married people are the worst. Married people are the worst to singles. And and it's not everybody, right? Because like I have like this community, I call them my TTs. They're like my mom's age, but they're not biologically related to me. And so when I get advice from them, it's more of a perspective of they know me. So they're saying like, okay, Javonna, this works for you as a single. This will probably not work for you as a married person. Like things like that I feel can be helpful. But like, especially young married people, please scram. Beat it. Like,
Scram is wild.
Like, it's tough. It's just like, and I think it's just being mindful. Like, I actually had dinner yesterday with one of my friends, and we were talking about, like, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. Like, I was expressing to her just some things I had experienced in my dating life. And she was like, oh, girl, I'm just so glad I'm not single no more. Like, because I heard the dating pool got pissed in the girl. It's just like, and I had literally had to sit her down, and I was like, when you say that, I know you don't mean it in a negative way, but you have to read the room. Because if I was like comparing it to if I'm with somebody that doesn't have a job and they're talking to me about, oh man, I applied for this job, I really want it, and I didn't get it, and I hate that. Woo, girl, I'm so glad I love my job, girl. Like, I just got a bonus, and it's just like,
read the room.
And it's not that you cannot be excited. I want you to be so happy and so excited about the season that you're in, but also understand that if you're talking to a person, especially if this person is sharing something with you that's not positive, maybe now is not the time for you to say it's piss in the dating pool.
Exactly.
Like, just be sensitive to what somebody else is going through, because I think like that is also just a part of you being a good friend, having an awareness of like where people are, or checking in and asking, hey, does it bother you? I know you're going through this. If I bring this up, is this something that's going to trigger you? Like just having an awareness of that, as especially in the area of single and married, I think would be extremely helpful, especially for young singles, because you know, the same way you want respect if your marriage, or let's say you come to me and say, oh, girl, you know, me and so-and-so in a fight. Well, girl, I'm so glad I'm single, girl. I'm so glad I ain't got to deal with your stuff. It's just like, how would that make you feel? So just be aware of how you're presenting those things.
I think also one of the things that I feel we've done in the church is that we've kind of like held up marriage to like the next best thing to salvation. Because in it, it's like, if you ain't married by 29 and a half years old, it's a problem, you know? And I think because we've done that, it puts like this kind of bitter taste about singleness. And even if you want to use the rhetoric of we're waiting, right? But what do waiters do? They serve, right? So even while you're in a waiting season or whatever, you can still serve and do what you're called to do. Like, it doesn't mean that you're like idly just sitting by for something to happen to you when you can make life happen for yourself.
And I get to choose how I serve.
Yes. That's big. That's big. I don't have a life.
Because I know I'm not.
Yes.
I have children now.
Yes.
My service. Like, you get to tell me my level of service.
Yes.
Because people feel like single people don't get to say no.
Right.
And it's like, I can still say no.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not going home to a spouse or I'm not going home to a child. My no is just as strong of a no and just as meaningful of a no, just because I'm not married.
No, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I don't have all this time on my hand like you think.
Listen.
Auntie got 3 jobs.
Listen. I don't have 2 incomes. So I have to work.
Yeah.
I'm working.
To do my own things.
Yeah.
Right. I learned how to use a drill.
So funny. With my pink toolkit. It's not bad. Yeah. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. No.
Yeah, and I think like when I'm thinking about just in terms of a church context too, is like there's just so much like talk around singleness and like just video after video. And I mean, although it's another video, I think it's a different perspective because like, let's say people feel like you're not allowed to have a list or you're not allowed to have like a preference or like, girl, he like you. Why you don't just? And it's like,
because I'm not just.
Yeah.
I'm not just.
Because if I let you settle for the half, then you won't ask for the whole, which is what I want, right? And if you just, I hate this like language about like just take whatever somebody has or rip up your list and all of that. Because I do not like that, because that's telling me as a Black woman that I cannot set standards for myself.
Exactly.
And that I have to get whatever I'm served, even if it's on a trash can.
Exactly.
I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
And God doesn't want me to have that. That's the gag. Like, I don't have to accept any old thing. I'm not any old thing.
Right.
You're that girl.
Period. I think it's definitely a balance, because I do feel like I've had certain conversations with people, and I'm not going to say it's unrealistic, because who am I? But for you to want a 6'4" basketball player that's a millionaire and don't cheat and is fine and loves God and was born on a peaceful, you know,
be specific.
I'm not saying that he don't exist. I'm not saying that. But he might not, or he might want your brother or something else, because we're in Atlanta. Okay. So we just really have to, I wasn't supposed to say that. You know?
It's real. It's real. That's another struggle of singleness.
Is it not a thing?
That is another struggle of singleness, because I
I'm
gotta
just
consider
saying.
that.
It's okay if he wants him.
It's
I need to find my person.
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes. So I just feel like it's okay. I feel like just make sure that what you're asking for aligns with the word of God. That's the biggest thing. And then it's okay to have preferences. I don't think there's anything wrong with preferences. However, there are also times where there have been things in my life that I wanted. Like and it was presented to me exactly the way I prayed for it. And when I got it, I was like, this is actually not best for me. Right. So that's why my prayer is always like, God, I want your best for me. Like, this is what I would like. Like, these are my preferences. Yes, tall. Yes, chocolate. Yes. You know, but
the atmosphere. You gotta put in the atmosphere.
If that's not what's best for me, then that's not what's best for me. So I think that's like a thing to think about. And also just getting help. Like, I went to this women's like intergenerational thing that one of my mentors does. And one of her friends, they're like older, like in their 50s, 60s. And she's been divorced. She wants to get married again. And she was just like, I really need help, like, submitting. Like, what do y'all think? And I was like, do you have a therapist? And everybody started laughing. But I was being dead serious. Like, if you have a job and you want a different level of job, or you want to transition into a different role at your job, and you don't have the skill set that you feel like you need to transition to a different role in your job, what do? You get a coach, you take a class. True. So I was like, it's nothing wrong with her getting a dating coach. Like, if there's a specific type of man that you want, that you don't feel you would attract, and you would like to shift that, I feel like it's okay to get help. Or maybe you need to shift the type of man that you want. Maybe you don't need like the big boss kind of man. Maybe you are okay with having more of like a beta man than an alpha man because of the type of personality that you have. So I think we also have to be realistic about what we want versus who we are, and what we are willing to change about ourselves to attract the things that we want. Not saying that like you can't be yourself, you shouldn't love yourself. I'm not saying that, but I do feel like my pastor was saying there are certain things that serve you well as a single that won't serve you well as a partner. So I think those things are important too, like just being real and having real people around you. Like, girl, you acting like that is not attractive. It's not cute, and it's not going to get you what you want. Yeah. Or you actually need to lean more into this, or, you know, you are too docile in this area, or you're too dominant in this area. Like, I think that's important too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be just curious here, like on that point, like what are things that y'all felt like you wanted in the past that you know now, like you've grown out of?
You ain't got time.
give me a couple. Give me a couple.
I mean, I thought I wanted like a manly man, like my man gonna come up here and shoot this whole place up if I call him. And I'm like, wait, I don't need nobody that violent. Never mind. He gonna air my house out and like, you know, because if it's that easy for you to just the moment I disagree with you.
Yeah, that translates.
Yeah. So you know, I thought I wanted that. I thought I wanted someone I thought I wanted a friendly man. Like someone who was nice and talked to everybody. I don't want that no more.
Friendly gives mixy sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's a mixy man.
And mixy gives
community. Community. It gives community. So yeah. So
it's gotta be the right kind of friendly.
The right kind of friendly. You can be cordial.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Or be able to set strong
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is so important.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Because everybody lacks boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like even like single women probably lack boundaries for themselves in terms of like not going back to like what's not serving you in the place of just waiting for God to deliver what he has for you. Because like if you know it's not serving you yesterday, it's not serving you today.
Probably not.
And it's not going to serve you tomorrow.
We're not circling the block in 2024.
No, we're not circling the block. Also, we're not pen pals girls
that, though.
2024.
You said I said 2024. I still got, 3 days?
I don't know now. It seems like they're getting back together. But
the people are getting back together.
In the past, I felt like I wanted a rough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, through therapy and like time to become more self-aware. Like my therapist, she really got me one day. She was like, "Oh, you are so poised and you're really together." She said, "But man, you're so fragile." She said, "And whoever your partner has to be, or whoever they will be, they have to be gentle."
Yeah.
And I want a gentle partner because just off of life, you know, trauma, you know, things that I go through personally, and just life sometimes, right? I need a gentle partner. And gentle is not the same thing as passive. I don't want a passive partner, but I want a gentle partner. So that's like the number one thing when I'm dating, because dating is like collecting research for me. Because I'm looking at what I like and what I don't like. You may not be my husband, but what are some characteristics that you have that I may like, right? So that kind of takes the pressure off of it. But one thing that I look for is like, is this person gentle and kind? That's
I
two
think
things.
the key to you is like taking the pressure off dating because people put so much pressure on being married.
Yeah.
So it makes like the dating experience like not fun. I take
Yes.
a million dating breaks in the year probably because I don't feel like it's fun.
Right.
But that also is due to like personal pressure, like society pressure, church pressure, right? Like all of these things that come with not being married. And also it's like being married is like a secret society that like everybody gets to watch from the outside sometimes in all the fun ways. Like I'm ready to be married. Like I'm excited because not because I'll be a part of the secret society, but also because like that is something I desire for myself, not necessarily to gain access to where I'm not right now. Because I think that a lot of people, I say in church specifically, because marriage is such like a secret society, like elevated thing, it feels like when you do become that, you try to distance yourself from singleness or you try to distance yourself from like what it is. Like I haven't necessarily had this experience, but I know like people that are just like almost like, oh, like you gotta look from the outside in. Like, oh, this is only for like
I'm only going
the
out
cool
with my couple
kids.
friends.
yeah. And it's like totally fine, but also like make sure that you're still including like your single friends because for some people it is a choice, but for some people it's like not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not choosing this for me. And also like God does not love me less.
Right.
That he died for you earlier than he did it for me.
Yeah.
Right.
You ain't no kind of more special than me.
Yes. That is the key. It's like almost like, okay, God loves this person more. Or like God did it for me faster than God did it for you. So there has to be, and Carmen, I think you said this earlier, there has to be something wrong with me. Like if God did it for this person faster, then that means that like there has to be a reason that like God did not do it for me.
You're not doing no more, what they call it? Personal work. You ain't doing the work.
Like I'm not journaling enough. I ain't read enough. I ain't read Genesis 1:1 enough. I don't know it. I don't. Maybe when I learn the Bible cover to cover. Maybe when I learn how to shout. He gonna find me in my footwork. Like, maybe that's what it is. And it's just not that. Like God loves me wholly. Like who I am right now is like literally good enough for God. Like my therapist and I always talk about the fact that like when God created everything, he didn't say, oh my God, this is lit. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. He was like, this is good. Like, this is good. And good is good enough for God. So why is good not good enough for us? And always like, also that God has our happiness in mind. Like that is something I like tussle with often. Like if it has not happened for me, it's not because God does not want me to be happy. Like God has my happiness in mind. He has my joy in mind. So like the life that I'm living to now, and also like abundant life is a choice. In like the scripture says that you might have life more abundantly. And might being like you have to make the choice. Like if you want your single season, lifetime, whatever you want to call it, to be like sad and ugly and like stupid,
that's what it's gonna
be. That's what it's gonna be. But if you want to have like a abundant life, like girl, get that. Like, sir, go get that. It's there for you for the taking. And God, thank you, Lord. But like it's literally all there.
Yeah. Shawty love.
I think also, girl, what? So anyway, I will also say that marriage is not a reward for doing self-work. I think self-work just has to be done for you. So as you are in like a single season, you can do that, but do it for you, not because you're doing it for like another person or like a partner who is on the way, because who knows when on the way is going to be here. Like you just have to do it for your own betterment and self-advancement, not because I'm doing it for that lady's son. Like for you, do it.
Because is he doing it?
That's the gag.
And also, if he's not doing it, does that mean that he's not right for me?
Right.
And in reality, we don't know that. Like, wholeness comes in like all timelines. And also, like, who I am today is not going to be who I am. Because then that dismisses the point of marriage to me. Because if you grow with a person in marriage, how is it that I have to be right to be married?
Right. Yeah.
How do I then grow with a person if like I gotta be grown already? Like
right.
That little kids table, I guess.
Child.
Did I graduate? What did you say?
I said to be determined.
Literally. But I would just also love to just hear like any other like tidbits that you guys have that like when you're feeling sad, like when you are like experiencing like the not so happy parts, like what do you and God talk about? Like what do you tell yourself in those moments to know that like a partner is coming? Or not even focus on like in life I'm trying to decenter men as well. Because I feel like we do get your hair done. There might be a man.
Go to Target. It might be
there might be a man. Go to the bar. There might be a man there. And it's like,
I just want to go out.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my time out.
Go have a Moscow meal with my friend.
Yeah.
And just enjoy that. So like, what do y'all tell yourself in those seasons?
I do things with my friends.
Period.
Like I have a best friend who is we call each other our life partners. So honestly, truly, like I don't feel physically, obviously, but beyond that, I don't really feel like a lack in partnership. I feel like if I call her, she's gonna come. I feel like she knows me in and out. I feel like she is there for me. We buy each other gifts. We send each other money. Like it's lit over here, so I don't really feel that. I think if I am feeling a way, that's why I was asking you earlier about community. And not to say, like, obviously there is a physical aspect of marriage that you probably will not get from your female friends or your community or whatever. But I do think, hey,
not for me.
Not for me. But, for the people. But I do feel like a lot of times if I am experiencing loneliness, because actually like it was this book in my church, is this lady that wrote a book called Wife Ready, and she ended up becoming a widow. She got married pretty early, like in her early 20s, ended up becoming a widow, and then wrote this book. And she wrote a list of things that marriage is not. And part of the list is she's like, marriage is not a cure for loneliness. And it's plenty of people that are married that still experience loneliness because Jesus is the one. So it's just kind of like, I think that if I experience loneliness, I don't look to it now with that awareness as like, I need to go find a man. It's like, okay, well, we have community. So if I'm feeling lonely, then maybe I will call one of my friends and hey, you want to go do this? You want to go do that? And I try to just keep my life full, not necessarily busy, but full, so that, especially like I work from home. So if I don't want to see anybody ever, I really don't have to. So like I have to force myself, okay, 3 times a week, you need to spend time with human beings, outside of the house during the week, like not just church on Sunday, but 3 times a week, you need to intentionally spend face-to-face contact time with someone. I love kids. Kids are very cuddly. So I have like a niece. And so if I want to go have cuddles with my niece, I will go do that, So I think like you have to be intentional about recognizing where I really don't want to use the enemy because I feel like it's such a churchy thing, but for real, like where
be trying it,
like where the entry points might be, like being aware. Okay, if you work from home, you're by yourself a lot. Just as you're, make an effort to fill that gap. Or maybe you don't need to watch this. Maybe you don't need to be on Instagram as much. Like whatever your entry points are, just being aware of those things that can trigger you, and also thinking and praying for remedies for that, so that you're not tripped up every time you see matching Christmas pajamas. Maybe you don't need to be on Instagram this week if the Christmas pajamas are triggering you, So I think that's something I do. I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's something that I do.
And I think one thing I would say also is like for like people not to be weird about single community, like not automatically assume like I don't like her. We just friends. Like
we're besties.
Friendships are like literally a thing. Like, I don't have to like her. And also like think about it in terms of like marriage being a partnership. in terms of marriage being a partnership, it's like I can still have partnership outside of being married.
Yeah.
And like just enjoying life with community. And this is my last question for y'all. I think I'm gonna. What is your favorite part about being single?
Oh, the quietness in my house.
Yes, not having to share my bed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when I think about sharing my bed for the rest of my life, I need a California king.
Yeah.
Like, I literally like to sleep like an ex sometimes.
It's crazy.
Or like this. I have really long legs.
Yeah.
It's high. I don't really need nobody like me.
Yeah.
My bed.
I think that's the best part too. Like I said, when I get married, he has to have his own bathroom. He has to have he has to have his own space. Like we can sleep together. I'm cool with that because I'm a cuddler, so I like to touch and rub. But it's like when we're getting up to brush our teeth, I need you to go somewhere else. When I need you to have your own. I will encourage a man cave. So I like us to be together, but when I need you to get out my face, I need you to go. So that's what I like about being single. I don't have to worry about that right now.
You like your space.
I like my space.
What about you?
I think my favorite part of being single is that I have my own undivided attention. As far as anything that I want to do, I'm going to go do it. If I want to love on myself a little bit more, like even in the moments where I feel like lonely and I'm a little down, like I just give myself more attention. I just feed whatever part of me that needs to be loved on, and I do whatever necessary that it takes, right? So I love that I have my own undivided attention because you do have a partner that kind of goes away. So while I do have that time with just Carmen right now, I absolutely love it.
I love that. I love all of that. For me too. Like,
yeah,
I just get to focus on me and also like know, just in a spiritual sense, that like God sees me.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't see me because I'm attached to someone.
Yeah.
Right.
God still is in the blessing business for just you. It does not matter like where you are, who you're attached to. God loves the single girls too.
He does.
Right. And you're already whole and complete just as you are.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Great conversations like that.
Yay.